So many people approach me saying that I'm a natural speaker, whether that be either on stage or whether that be in front of this camera speaking to you today. But actually, that isn't true. It didn't start like this. If you go to my early videos, if you go to some of my early performances, it is all over the place compared to what it is now. And this will be a forever evolving skill that I'm trying to hone in on as I try to communicate the best I can to you and make it engaging and informative, whether that be on video or whether in the live environment. So I was thinking about this because more often than ever before I get this comment, and it is a compliment, and I take that. How brilliant it is that people would feel so impressed by the way I'm communicating this topic that they want to come and say that to me. If somebody says to you, you're a natural speaker, it means you make it look natural, when really for most skills, it took a long time to develop that level of skill within your craft. So I started thinking about all of this, and I thought back to my open mic days when I first started taking my story public on stages around London. And I don't know how long you've been following me for, but that's a major part of my story. And I wanted to talk to you a bit about it because it's exciting. And I look back at it and I'm proud. I'm proud that I did that. I didn't really think too much of it, think too much about it at the time. But now looking back at it, like, fair play, Jeremy. Like, good on you. Like, pat myself on the back for that. And I think it's important that we do that when we achieve great things. So that open mic stage of my journey, let's talk a little bit about that. To give you some context, I was 32 years old at that point. I spoke out for the first time to a close friend when I was 27 years old. So this was 5 years later. And in that 5 years, I'd just spoken to another friend and another friend, just as time went on, as years went on, and started getting more confident with telling my story. Then I spoke to some of their girlfriends, and I spoke to some of their wives. And then I spoke to the parents of the boys that knew me back in the days where I was abused, to have a conversation about what went on from their perspective. And my family knew about it too, because the police investigation was ongoing at this point against the man that did this to me. This was around 2018/2019. And through those years of me speaking to friends and family about it, I decided, because I'd done so much research online too, who else had a story like this? What's going on with this? Who are the offenders? What are the prison sentences that anyone's getting, if any? I just got engrossed in the topic and made a decision that I wanted to try and do something about this. And I felt confident that I could. Where that real confidence comes from is very interesting, and it would be worth sitting down and dissecting my history and my personality through its stages and finding out where that confidence to say something like that came from. I remember sitting down with mates and saying this vision that I had and what that meant. And the reason why we know I was so confident with it is because I decided that I wanted to go all in. So I quit my job, my very good job, designing supercars at McLaren, sold everything that I had, got my savings together, packed everything I needed into my car, started sleeping around friends and family's houses, and had this open mic idea because if I could take my story public, which I'd never done before at this point, and I could start testing out how I'm going to communicate this topic in ways that is engaging, non-threatening, some level of comfort, some level of information, some level of inspiration. This is what I needed to test out. And it's so funny how life works, isn't it? Because as I was making this decision in my head and started speaking to friends about it and family about it, and everyone was worried about what I was doing, because they care for me, they love me, they're concerned for me. I'm leaving a great job, sleeping on couches. What's going on? What are you going to do with this? Everybody was, as I say, concerned. I had been to an open mic night about 2 or 3 weeks before all of this decision was happening. And this is what I say about life working out. When you get these gems, when you get these gifts, you got to take them. You got to feel optimistic about them because they don't always come. So I went to this spoken word open mic night. I was staying in London at the time, and London is an incredible city that I never had an awareness of before because I'd never stayed in London up until this point. And the reason why, personally, I think it's incredible is there's so much going on. You can do something exciting and interesting every night. In fact, there's so much going on that you have such a big choice of what to do on a Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. You have to kind of be selective. It's great. And as I say, I'd never stayed in London up until this point, so I never knew about that. So I was just going to everything that I could at this point, and I went to this open mic night. It was called What You Saying. It was in Croydon, which is South London. I believe they're not open anymore, or the event is not ongoing anymore. I believe that COVID actually shut down a lot of the scene, which is really unfortunate. I remember turning up and there were all these poets and spoken word artists doing their thing on stage. Everybody got about 5 minutes. And I saw that you could just turn up, and as long as you were early enough, you could get yourself on the list, and it was free, and it was this incredible supportive environment. And that's why I thought, that's the best place that I could take my story public. Live audiences, it's free. I just turn up, and I just started planning the weeks. I got some open mic nights lined up. I knew this one was going on this day, this one was going on this day, this one was going on this day. And the first open mic that I went to was a place called the Ritzy in Brixton. Now, I will remember this forever. This is such a bright moment of my story, and I say it with a smile. What a great thing. I look back at all of this and I'm proud of myself for doing this. This is no easy thing to achieve. And I turned up early, arrived in Brixton really early. I must have been like an hour and a half early. Made sure I got on the list. So I went into the venue, went upstairs, I signed up, and I was third on. And I looked at the space, and it was a stage at the front, and probably about 50 seats facing that stage. And I'd prepared this 5-minute talk about my story, and the event that it was holding, the event that was holding this night was called Spark, which was stories. It was about true stories, but you had to relate it to a theme. And so I tried to relate my story to this theme in some way. I'd been practicing constantly, re-going over this talk in my mind, trying to learn it off by heart. I'd never really done anything like that before. And if you know, 5 minutes is a long time to learn your lines off by heart. But I was on the list. And it was a crazy feeling. I remember it so well. I went back downstairs and I got myself a drink, and people were turning up to the event, and I honestly had my head in my hands thinking, my goodness, you don't have to do this. Just go home. It's okay. Like the nerves I think the fear. I mean, public speaking is a fear within itself, let alone exposing yourself in front of people you don't know for the very first time. But somehow, out of somewhere, I said to myself, just do it this once. And if you don't like it, never, ever do it again. And that just landed so well in my mind. I just thought that was just exactly what I needed. I would just do it this once. I'd push through, do it this once, and if I didn't like it, I'll never do it again. Done. So I stayed. The event started. I mean, it was packed. 50, 60 people is a lot of people. The first 2 people went up. One, I swear, one was singing and one was telling another story. everybody was using creative outlets, like somebody would play guitar and tell their story. Somebody would actually storytell. It was crazy. Because then I was next. My name got called out. I couldn't believe it. But what I did do was I gave my mobile phone to the person next to me and asked them to record it for me. And I got up on the stage. I looked out into the audience. The lights were kind of blinding me, so I couldn't see clearly, and I began. Now, what's great is, as I mentioned, I recorded this using the very kind person to the side of me, and I've posted all of these on my YouTube channel. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Jeremy Indica, if you click videos, you've got an option to click oldest, and you're going to see that I've got like 10 recordings of different open mic nights that I'd actually done in those moments. Come on, this is great. This is so great. So let's watch the first ever time that I took my story public on an open mic event to a live audience in London. And let's see how I was back in those days. And that is what will help us understand that I am not a natural speaker, whether that be on stage or in front of this camera. It has taken hard work and evolution. And I think that's a great inspirational message to anybody that sees my work, wants to do something similar, or finds inspiration from it, to see that there has been a journey here. Let's watch this and check it out. Tonight's a very special evening for me. It's the start of a new journey, an exciting one and also a very nerve-wracking one. I'm going to start speaking at open mic nights and communicating my thoughts and my views on the subject of childhood sexual abuse. And I'm also going to use the stage to begin expressing where I'm at on my journey working through the abuse I suffered as a young child. I feel this is a really important thing to do, and it's absolutely necessary, and I'm at the kind of stage where I feel confident now to do this. I think that it's going to help me progress as a person, but also I think one of the beautiful things that can come from it is to open an opportunity for anybody that's listening to take whatever they need from it. And if that's a lift of any sort, then that will be a true blessing. In general, I'm in a place, when I think about this journey, I'm in a place of quite confidence and passion. But I'd be lying if I said that sometimes there isn't an interruption of self-doubt. In the beginning, I'd get really irritated and angry by this self-doubt because it's not going to help me progress at all. But after understanding a little bit more about it, I understand that the voice that questions you, that I think we all have, instead of getting angry and irritated by it and trying to eliminate it or push it to the side, I think probably the best thing to do is to work alongside it, or even better, dance with it, just to appreciate that it's there, understand that it's part of our human nature, and when it arises, to just be like, this is a position of self-doubt, this is a place of self-doubt, it will last a couple of hours, and soon I will be back into my place of progress. So it's an interruption, an unwanted interruption that I'm trying to work alongside at the moment. So as I mentioned, I feel it's really important for me to begin to discuss what I've learned over the last 10, 15 years, and also to express myself. And also I just think it's really important for us all to share our experiences when we feel like we're ready, because other people can learn from them, and I think that's the only way we can really move forward with any subject, especially a subject like this, which is pushed so far underground, and it's unfortunately the silence I feel that is allowing it to grow. So tonight's my first night that I'm speaking, and I'm going to begin uploading the videos onto the social media, and so that anyone that's interested can begin following, and also anyone that feels strongly about the subject, or maybe even experienced something before or something similar, can come in, give their opinions, give their feedback, tell me what they like that I'm doing, tell me what they don't like I'm doing, so I can just start to build something, because I feel it's very important that I should do something. So thank you for listening, and let's get something moving. Thank you. Wow. Oh my goodness. I haven't watched that for ages, maybe a few years. Ah, what, I'm lost for words. It's so cool. It's so cool. How did I get that so straight in my mind? I'm not even talking about the performance at all. I'm talking about, like, I was so right. Let's just do something about this. Okay, how are we going to do it? Where's the solution? What's the problem? What's the best way to address it? Let's get something moving. Like I said at the end of it, let's get something moving. I already knew I was going to video them. I already knew I was going to upload them onto social media. I already knew that I wanted people's feedback. I already knew that I wanted to build something. It's like we were just on. We were just on for it. But look how nervous I am. If you get a chance, go to my YouTube channel and actually watch the video. I'm so nervous with it. I'm big pauses in between each line. If you see my body language, I've got my hands behind my back. I don't really know where to look. And of course, I've learned how to handle those emotions now, as I do many of those speaking in front of audience situations. But how incredible that is. And I kind of broke the rules with that event, by the way. Now I remember that the theme of the night was self-doubt. You had to tell a story from your own life that related to self-doubt. I didn't really tell my story there, did I? I just explained what I was planning to do, and that there was I kind of fed in very cheekily, I feel like, very fed in some kind of self-doubt relevance so that I could go and speak on the night. But yeah, I mean, it's great. But look, I speak very, very differently on stage to that now, obviously, and my content is very, very different. So for anybody that's like, they'd love to start something like I have, or they'd just love to speak in general, whatever it be, you can see the real evolution of my skill set as I work hard trying to work out the best ways, what's good and what's bad, what do I need to let go, what do I need to improve on, and also by, as you may know, I watch a lot of comedians and I take a lot of inspiration from them. So once I did that first night, I kicked off social media platforms. I had like maybe 20 followers on Instagram because they were just my friends that were following. And I just started booking onto as many nights as I could. Some weeks I was speaking at 2 or 3 events. Now you will see on my YouTube channel that I actually posted, I think, 8 or 9 videos in total, because what I would do is I'd go and perform the same 5-minute slot at a number of places, and then when I felt like it was as good as I could have it, I would record it and then I would post it. I actually ended up speaking at around 100 events, and I think actually what stopped it was COVID, but that was fine because I'd done 100. Things had changed brilliantly through that process, and I was ready to start focusing on social media, which of course COVID pushed me to do anyway. But look, you can go and watch some of these early ones, right? You can go and watch some of these early ones, but I want to talk to you about the open mic journey a little bit more, because it was not straightforward. Because these spoken word and poetry open mic nights, they were few and far between. So I didn't want to wait 2 or 3 weeks to perform again. I wanted to be performing every week a number of times. Now, I was actually traveling around the country, staying at friends and family's houses. So I had like 6 spare keys, I had like 6 keys on my key ring of people's houses that were like, Jeremy, just come and stay here. I've got a spare room. Use this house as you wish. So I'd go and stay in Coventry for a week. I'd go and stay in London for a week. I'd go over and stay in Surrey for a week. I'd go and stay over in Brighton for a week. I'd move every week because I didn't want to outstay my welcome anywhere. That actually kept the environment fresh as well, because I wasn't working. I was using my savings to fund all of this, my food, my transport, my phone bill, etc. I didn't have accommodation costs, which meant that my savings weren't like being thrown, like my savings weren't going down at a quick rate. And also what that change in location meant every week or 10 days, I remember, was that there were different open mics there. But when you go up to Coventry, the open mics aren't like in London. They're mostly pubs. When you go into London, the open mic, spoken word and poetry open mic nights are just few and far between. So I had to start going everywhere I could, which meant I had to sometimes go to pubs, busy cocktail bars in the centre of London at office closing hours where people are drinking, they're chatting, they're moving, going to the toilet. Some of them aren't listening to the performance, because at some open mic nights, it's mostly musicians. It's mostly singers. But I would still go as a storyteller. And I went to events where some people didn't like it because it's after work. Let's say when I was down in Brighton, I'd go to a pub. It's an old school pub full of 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds having a pint of beer after work, and they're expecting guitarists and a couple of singers and maybe someone playing a piano, and then I turn up. But I just knew I had to keep just talking it. And what I'd do is, throughout for the whole, I'd wake up so early in the morning. I would write, keep adjusting the writing of what I was going to perform that night, changing it, putting something at the start, putting something in the middle. I even played around with some music in the background and I tried it that way for the pubs. I thought maybe that would be a bit better because they're used to music. So I put a bit of music in the background and I say something over it. You can see there's one here on my Instagram called Explanation, number 9, 5 years ago. I actually picked a hip hop tune that I like and got the instrumental to it, and I didn't rap over it, but I just kind of spoken word over it. Really interesting. Go check that out. But look, there are a couple of nights that went really, really badly. Let me tell you about those. The first one I want to talk to you about was a pub in the outskirts of London. And I turned up and I knew instinctively I shouldn't be here. I should probably go. This is nowhere near suited for what I want. It was a small pub. It was a local pub, full of local people. It was probably about... The place was pretty packed, and it was mostly comedians and singers. And I knew my name was somewhere on the list and it was coming up, and I thought, you probably shouldn't speak here. You really don't fit in. But again, I just had this thing of just do it. Because if you're going to learn, here's the place. What's going to really go wrong? You're going to learn so much here. They're going to like it or they're not. And for tomorrow's event, you're going to make adjustments. So I spoke and I had a microphone, and then all of a sudden my microphone turned off. Well, I thought it turned itself off. So now it's very... distinguishable when you're speaking into a microphone, then all of a sudden it's just your voice volume. It's quite clear that that's what's happened. And so I'm looking at the microphone thinking, have I turned the button off by accident? And I look up and I look at the owner, and the owner's doing this. So for those that are listening on your podcast app, he's saying, no, enough. He's doing this with his hand gesture across his neck. He's like, enough. We don't want that here. And it was absolutely devastating. Can you imagine 50 or 60 people staring at you? The room is dead silent. And I just put my microphone down and kind of go over to my seat. And all I wanted to do was leave, but I couldn't, because then the next performer got called and a couple of people around the table kind of patted me on the back. And I ended up leaving, and that was so sad. And even when I say it now, it kind of makes me feel sad, because I look at Jeremy in those times and think he was really pushing, and he just got kind of thrown under the bus on that event. But what happened? I'd go home, and I was travelling by bus. It was in the city centre. So I'd get on the bus and I'd be straight on the notes on my phone, right, thinking, right, well, how can I make it a bit more, for the pub environment, how can I make it a bit more lighthearted? Like, can I come in with a joke? Can I come in with a question? Can I come in with a statistic and ask the audience? Can I present it in a better way so that it's not so shocking for that particular type of venue? So it actually pushed me to evolve even more. Now let me tell you about the other night that didn't go so well. What I started doing is, maybe you could say that I started getting greedy. So if I could get to an event early enough, I would be performing at like 7:30, and then I'd go to another one that was close by after I'd performed and try to perform a second time that night. But the second time would be a lot later because I'd kind of be on the end of the list. Is that greedy of me? Maybe that wasn't so sensible of me, because when you turn up late to an event, you can't get a feel of the audience, get a feel of the vibe. So yeah, maybe that was my error there, inexperienced at the time. So I'd move to the next event, second event, and this one was in Peckham, and it was in a pretty rough area. I turn up at the event, it was mostly music, and I was on pretty much last, which meant like 11 p.m. Everybody was drinking, it was pretty rowdy, a few people dancing to some of the music, and I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? But again, just keep going, Jeremy. Keep pushing forward. These are just barriers. You're learning so much with every time. Honestly, with every time I performed, I just felt like the progression it wasn't just a exponential curve. It was like it would step up every single time I performed, because I'd record every one of them and I'd watch it on the way home. I'd watch it again and again and again. I'd be like, okay, why didn't you move around the stage? Or you were always speaking to the left of the audience, or you didn't really use your hands that much, or there wasn't enough silence, or you could create a longer pause at that moment. I was playing around with it like this. So anyway, got to my name. I was called out at this event in Peckham, and I started. Low lighting, again, people drinking, bit rowdy atmosphere, and I started delivering this particular set that I had, and I could see something was going on in the audience. There was a bit of a commotion maybe going on, but because I wasn't like now I can kind of, when I'm delivering something on stage, my mind is kind of, my skill has improved so that I can concentrate on different things while still delivering. But obviously I was new at that point, so I couldn't do that, and I could sense this commotion, but I couldn't address it because I was concentrating so much on my lines. And then all of a sudden, from that section of the audience, a man stands up and he shouts across the crowd, "Don't you know this is nighttime entertainment and you come here talking about kids getting touched? Get off the stage." And I'm like, what just happened? I stop and I tried to continue delivering, but then another member of the audience stands up and starts shouting at this man and goes, "Well, if we can't speak about it now, when can we speak about it?" And then another member of the audience stood up and started shouting at this man, and this man started clapping back. And it just got hectic very, very quickly. And I put my I thought to myself, I've got two options here. I'm either going to try to contribute and try to calm this situation down, or I'm just going to get out of here. And I decided on just getting out of here. I thought, I don't need to be dealing with any of this. So I put the microphone back on the stand. I picked up my bag and I left the venue. Now, as I got out the door, the venue organizer, the organizer of the event, came to me and said that he was so sorry, because actually what I did before I went to each of these events, I would contact the organizer and say, look, I'm coming with this subject. Is it okay with you? And of course, the ones that I went to said yes. And so he said like that he was really sorry, and I was like, it's okay. But again, you know what, actually, on my way home after that night, I kind of felt like it was the end for me. I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. Like, that was such a terrible experience. I was like, I just don't think I can do this anymore. What am I doing? Why did I leave my job? I'm sleeping at people's houses, and I had a nice life before, and nothing's ever going to come of this, I was thinking. And I don't think I made any adjustments on the way home. I didn't rewatch that particular video, and I just went to bed, and then of course the next morning I'm back on it trying to problem solve this, because I'm an engineer and that's what I've been trained to do. So I urge you to go and check out, spend some time going on my YouTube channel, go to videos, select oldest, and actually watch them in sequence, because I've actually labeled them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see how the different things I was experimenting with each of them. And I believe these 100 events that I spoke at were really the foundations for me. I believe I managed to achieve so much in those months that I was doing this. So much progression, like no other. And it's really great to see. It's something to be so... For me personally, it's something to be so proud about. It's interesting. It's an interesting part of my story. It's inspirational for other people who have spoken out or would love to speak out at some point in their life. And you have a journey documented here. And I think it's great. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. And I wanted to really explain that, like, what I do now with the Something to Say movement, with the speaking in schools, with the training that I've developed for teachers, and the way I communicate on my social media platforms, and the way I write posts, the way I write captions, the way I bring subject matter to you, the way I take you on a journey, all of that has just come from trial and error. Experimentation, failing a million times, getting the gold now and again and seeing why that worked. And I will continue working like that, because the potential of this it's limitless. It's limitless. I think about my talks in schools at the moment, and you may have seen that I posted the presentation that I gave to Year 8 girls, and I watched that, and I've changed it so much ready for next week, and because I learned so much from that. And it's like, this can be so good, we can hardly believe it. And I feel there's no doubt in my mind with that. It's just got to be hard work, dedication, constant evolution, a rejection of the fear of failure, and then it will continue moving forward, and we will turn Something to Say into a household name, a brand that everybody knows and is aware of, and we will raise awareness through that. And for Jeremy Indica platforms, we will push to get into every school. We will push to get legislation changed. We will assess what is going on with this crime and how it's happening so freely, and we will make change. And then when we pass, when our lives are done, I know that sounds a bit morbid, let's be realistic about this. When our lives are over and we're finished and we're in retirement age, we can hand over this incredible product that we created to the new generation, to the next generation, and they can build it further for the world, the new world that they know a lot more about than what we will know about at that age. And that will be a life worth living, and that will be the true definition of turning a tragedy into some kind of triumph and helping today's generation. So thank you for this. I hope you've kind of found some enjoyment out of hearing this part of my story that many of you will not know, but is really there. And maybe I do some more of these podcasts and explain the different elements of the story, because it's been a long one, and it's interesting, and it's great. And you know what? Maybe one day we can make a film out of all of this that will be revolutionary to this subject. Thank you.